Hamas says this could lead to the failure of hostage and ceasefire negotiations. Sarah Coates for CBC in Tel Aviv.
The RCMP in Souk on Vancouver Island say a woman has died after she was struck by a vehicle early this morning. She was walking in the 6900 block of Souk Road at about 5:30 when she was hit. First responders tried to resuscitate her, but the victim did not survive. Police say the driver of the vehicle remained at the scene and is cooperating with investigators. The mayor of Fraser Lake in northwestern BC expects several hundred people to pack a community forum tonight to discuss the impending closure of the local mill. It's scheduled to shut down in May, affecting about 1 in 10 people in that community. Still, Mayor Sarah Story says she's optimistic new businesses will come to town, and she hopes people affected by the closure will find work elsewhere.
A lot of people are going to try to stay here and work. The few people that I spoke to recently, they're trying to place their work in the area. They don't want to live here. The area.
West Fraser says it will help employees who want to relocate to work at the company's other plants. And more layoffs have been announced in the gaming sector. Electronic Arts says it's cutting 5% of its workforce, or about 700 employees. This comes just days after Sony announced it's cutting 900 jobs from its PlayStation division. That's the CBC News from Vancouver. We'll have more news on CBC Radio 1 in half an hour. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/BC, or you can use the CBC News app. Taking a look at the forecast now for Metro Vancouver and the South Coast. Environment Canada says it will be an unsettled day today. We've got some sunny breaks right now, but there's a chance of showers later on, possibly even thunder activity. Today's high near 7. Tonight, a few showers with the low dipping down to +2. Tomorrow, cloudy with a chance of showers and again a risk of a thunderstorm. Tomorrow's high near 6. Showers expected Saturday with a chance of showers Sunday and Monday. Right now, Vancouver 5 degrees with a few clouds.
See someone show up to the same job, clean the same toilets, eat the same meal at the same restaurant, listen to the same music, and then take pictures of trees. But it's not boring at all. In fact, it's a film that sort of reminds you that all you need in life to truly be happy is, well, not that much. Koji Yakusho is one of the biggest stars in Japanese film. He stars in this very strange, beautiful film, and he'll be here to tell you all about it. That's coming up. Plus, a big Canadian collaboration, one of Canada's greatest opera singers, Misha Lee, and one of Canada's greatest writers, Margaret Atwood. Misha will be here to talk to you about adapting Margaret's work for a new song cycle. I'm Tom Howard. Welcome to Q. Alright, so I'm going to start the show this way. Okay. Tokyo is populated by a series of architecturally stunning public toilets. And some of these public toilets are designed by like renowned architects. And in this new movie, Perfect Days, you follow this dude named Hideyama, who his job is to clean the toilets. Every single day he shows up and he cleans these beautiful toilets, and then he goes and has a bite to eat in the same restaurant where he eats the exact same thing. And then he goes to bed at his simple home, which is just a bed and a bunch of plants. And on the way to his home and on the way to work, he listens to cassette tapes by like Lou Reed and Patti Smith. That's kind of the film. When you watch the film and it ends, you start to say to yourself, was that it? Is that all that happened? And then you start to realize that the film is a very subtle meditation on what it actually takes to be happy in life. The film stars Koji Yakusho, who plays Hideyama. Koji, if you don't know, is a massively popular dude in Japanese cinema. He's also been in American movies like Memoirs of a Geisha. He came into the Q studio with his translator, David Neptune, during the Toronto International Film Festival back in the fall. Now that this, again, beautiful film is out in theaters, I wanted to play our conversation for you. I was so glad to have the chance to talk to Koji Yakusho. Hi, how are you?
Fine.
I want to start out by saying that what I heard about you is that you'll only watch your films once. So does that mean that you saw it at Cannes and you're not going to watch it in Toronto this time?
この前見ました。2度目、3度目かな。 Yeah, actually, with this film, I've actually seen it 3 times already, including just recently at the Telluride Film Festival, and so it's nice to get to see the audience reactions when I see it in theaters.
Am I wrong that you only typically watch them once?
でも普段は1回しか見ない。
そうです。まあ、ほとんど映画祭で一緒に見なきゃいけない機会がない限りはほとんど一度しか見ない。
Unless I'm somewhat forced, I just like to watch it once.
Okay, so what I should take from this is not that you loved the film so much you wanted to watch it 3 times, but that you were somewhat coerced into watching it 3 times.
では本当にこの役が好きだから3度見たわけではなく、少し無理やり明記されたという。
見るたんびにやっぱりこの映画のパーフェクトデイに関しては。
So in terms of Perfect Days, actually, it's kind of a unique case because I feel different emotions every time I've seen it. And it's not that I dislike my other films, but normally I see my films and I really want to critique myself, but with Perfect Days, I tend to just feel I kind of forgive myself for any shortcomings that I see in my acting. And I hope that I can have that attitude with all of my films, so in retirement I can actually enjoy some of my movies.
It sounds that Perfect Days is a special film to you. If you could tell me a little bit about that.
いやー、まずそのビン・ベンダースというその憧れの監督との作品に自分が参加できると思う。
So really, working with him was such a wonderful experience because I really admired him and I never dreamed I would be able to be in a Wim Wenders film. He really showed me that movie making can be fun. This was such a special set, and at this age for me to really learn this is a wonderful gift that I think Wim gave me. So I actually fear for the future now that I've had this great of an experience working on a film.
Your character in the film, I felt like I was seeing the world through his eyes and through his patience and through his noticing. Like, I felt your character notices every tree branch and notices every bit of sunlight and notices every plant and shows the simplicity of how the beauty of how simple life can be. How did you see your character?
そうですね。まあ、おっしゃったように、普段僕たちが見ないものっていうのは見ても見ないふりをするものが。
So as you said, Hirayama really sort of sees things that normally others don't notice or maybe pretend not to see. For example, the homeless man in the film, they don't interact or talk to each other, but he really sees him while others sort of just walk by him and pretend not to see him. So whether it's plants or with the homeless, he sees those very clearly. And I think he had a follow-up thought as well.
ごめんね。こうやって僕英語知らないからこうやってペンペンことになってやれなくてしょうがないね。
So sorry that it takes extra time because there's a translator and it's probably a bit of extra effort on your part.
I really love it actually because I was just thinking about this, that I love that I wouldn't normally have the opportunity to talk to you if it wasn't for the translation, so I'm actually quite grateful for it. Do you feel like this is, at least in Western theaters and Western cinema, this was a version of Tokyo that we don't typically get to see? The version of Tokyo that often gets portrayed in films that make it over here is, of course, a lot of lights and neon. This was a sort of a quieter, more subdued, maybe more naturalistic Tokyo. Have you ever seen Tokyo depicted like that before? Or maybe that's not even a question. How did you feel about the depiction of Tokyo in this film?
いや、僕も東京に住んでいるんですけども、この東京の風景っていうのを、
So more, material possessions than him, and have this sort of need for material things, but not him. And I think that really is a beautiful lens to see people through, and I think that's why you kind of see a new side of Tokyo through this story.
Oh, because because of his aversion to materialistic things. The film also doesn't portray Tokyo through its embrace of materialistic things. It allows us to see Tokyo through the natural beauty of his eyes.
東京はお金があれば本当に何でも手に入る街ですけど、でもそうやってお金があって何でもその家を買ったり何ものを買い求めても、
はい、なんだと思いますよね。Yeah, so I would say that with money you can basically buy anything in Tokyo, and yet there are very few who are actually satisfied with their life there. In terms of Hirayama, he takes, he buys the canned coffee in the morning, he has a very simple day, and then he has a drink at night, and he reads a little bit, and he's extremely satisfied. And I think the audience will feel very envious of such satisfaction. And fulfillment. And so I found myself wondering, during this shoot, why am I not satisfied with my life? There can be you can have so little and be so satisfied. I think that's the big question that this film makes the audience ask.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because this film made me think about that too. I was watching the film thinking to myself, I feel like I left the film looking at the trees around me and taking them in a different way, looking at the sky around me. People are going to listen to this. It's really deep. I mean, American music, like music from over here. Like Reed is in this film. Music of Reed is in it. Patti Smith is in the film. Music of Patti Smith. Patti Smith's in it. The Kinks, music of the Kinks. It has this music also. I mean, I love the scenes of your character driving around alone at night listening to this music and taking such peace in it. Does that music resonate with you personally? Has that music resonated with you personally?
感覚の非常に苦しい好みの音楽がたくさんあると思うんですけど、僕の時代でいくとちょっともう独特の時代の音楽なんで、でもとてもいい曲があって。
This is when the music was mostly his taste, and sort of his upbringing and that sort of thing. But every time I saw, translations of English lyrics, I really enjoyed them. For me, my two favorites were Perfect Days and Nina Simone's song at the end. I really enjoy. What did you like about Perfect Day?
忘れたけど。
It's hard to say exactly.
生活の象徴的な歌ですよね。もう目覚めて眠りにつくとき。
I feel like for Hirayama, it's a very symbolic song. It's about his life. He sleeps, he wakes up, and then when he's about to go back to sleep, it's like he has this feeling it was the perfect day. And that's sort of his daily theme song.
若い女の子ちょっと本当に起訴されたその彼のパーフェクトフェイスを聞いてましたけど。
And the day that he was kissed on his cheek by a young girl, he goes home and he's very satisfied, and that was his perfect day as well.
Japanese cinema, really a household name. He rose to fame in the 80s on Japanese TV, and it's been a bit of a whirlwind since. But I wanted to go back and ask him a little bit about where it all began. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into acting in the first place?
最初は舞台の俳優は向井の地元の友人にもらった切符で。
So, a friend of mine gifted me a ticket to a theater show, and I was so moved going to this theater show. It was the first time I had ever seen something like that, and I thought acting was really fascinating, and I started going to more theater shows, and then I realized that not all acting is great. But I did notice also that all the actors were doing their best. They were all sweaty on stage, and I started to envy those actors, and I thought to myself, it might be... It didn't really go so well, then I know that the next time maybe it will. And it's almost, I think, for actors like a drug that, maybe on the next project I'll be fully satisfied and fully, self-actualized. So far, I guess it's worked out.
Yeah, and it sounds like this film was an example of one that felt the things were going the right way. What's the biggest changes you've seen in cinema in Japan from when you started out until now?
そうですね。日本映画の中では日本映画は意外と年間制作される本数は多い国だと思うんですけど。
So with Japanese films, I think in the country of Japan, there's a lot of films that are made per year, but there are very few that are distributed internationally. And I think thinking from that sense, that I hope that more directors, writers, DPs, producers can make films that really go out into the world. And I think that might be a little bit hard with my generation, but I think the next generation really needs to be nurtured so that can happen more.
What have you looked for over the years in roles that you've taken on? I mean, like, you played a police officer, a serial killer, a samurai warrior, you ballroom danced. What are you looking for in the roles you take on?
まあ映画全体、作品全体のことを考えると、やっぱりどんなそのバイオレンスがあろうと、まあ普通のその家庭のドラマに しろ、結果的に何かこう人間にしろ、その物語ストーリーにしろ美しい物語であったり、美しい人間が出たり。
So overall in a film, if no matter whether there's incredible violence that happens or if there's a strained family dynamic, I find that whether it's in the individual human or in the story, there's always something beautiful to be found. And when I sense that in a story, in a film, that's when I feel like I can jump on board. And even if I'm not a beautiful character, for instance, if the story is beautiful or overall film is beautiful, then there's a role there for me.
Was this a particular challenge, this role, because there's almost no dialogue from you? You barely speak at all in the film. Was that a different test of your acting?
僕セリフ多いのはあまり好きじゃない。
I don't really like films with a lot of dialogue.
でもなんていうかな、やっぱり、まあ、言葉も非常に大切だけども、やっぱりこう。
So words are important, of course, but I think films are expressed most powerfully in those moments that don't have the words. It's the sort of emotions that well up from within, I think, that are the most important.
Plus, it's easier to remember your lines.
That's true.
Well, maybe this is a good way to close things off. I mean, you win Best Actor at Cannes for Perfect Days for this very quiet role, as you mentioned. It's a lot of just showing emotion in your face and in your body, not through a lot of dialogue, and you get this very prestigious award for it. What was your reaction? What do you think of that?
いや、まあカンヌで開催してる間にこうやってインタビューとかなんかを
So at Cannes, we did a lot of interviews, and many of the journalists that spoke with me said I had a chance at receiving this Best Actor award, and I thought, okay, even if they say this, I shouldn't expect this at all, because I'll be so disappointed if that ends up happening, if that doesn't end up happening. And so on the last day, we were told that we were going to get some sort of award, and I thought, okay, it could be for the film, it could be for the script, or it could be for acting. But in the moment when my name was actually called, I was so surprised. I was shocked, and it was hard to believe. But I was extremely happy. And then one anecdote I'll share is that one of the jury members was staying in the hotel in front of mine. And the morning after the awards ceremony, there was this piece of paper slipped under my door, and it had a little grid for the tic-tac-toe, and it said congratulations under it, and I thought, huh? And then when I realized what it was, I was very moved, and he was also the person who read the award at the ceremony as well.
That's a beautiful thing, and I should say for people who haven't seen the film, passing on tic-tac-toe in little pieces of paper to strangers is a very big part of the film. What a joy it was to have you in here. I really loved the film. I loved what a quiet film it was, and I'll say it again, it made me think differently about the world around me after I watched it, and what else can you ask for besides that? Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much. It's my conversation with the actor Koji Yakusho. He won Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival for his role in Perfect Days, which is this beautiful film directed by Wim Wenders. Perfect Days is nominated for Best International Feature Film at this year's Oscars. Those happen on March the 10th. She wanted to make a whole album using Margaret Atwood's poetry. So one of the biggest Canadian opera singers ever and one of the greatest Canadian writers ever coming together. I'm Tom Power. After this on Q.
Good morning, it's 10:30. I'm Drew Kalakis. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Federal Health Minister Mark Holland has tabled a bill in the House of Commons that could pave the way for a national pharmacare program. It's a key part of the Liberals' political pact with the New Democrats and comes one day before a deadline to introduce legislation. The government says the initial program will include coverage of contraceptives, insulin, and diabetic supplies, such as devices for glucose monitoring. A woman whose son remains in a vegetative state after a martial arts tournament last fall has launched a lawsuit against a number of people and organizations involved with the event. She claims there was negligence at the Western Canadian Martial Arts Championships last year. The mother of 26-year-old Jen Huang Li claims organizers failed to take appropriate safety measures. A cleanup effort is underway along the lower Alouette River in Pitt Meadows. A contractor hired by Transport Canada is removing decades of trash and other junk that's been accumulating in the waterway. Mark Karros with the Alouette River Management Society says he expects they will remove about 200 tons of material by the end of the week, including old fiberglass boats that have been seeping contamination into the river. In the weather for Metro Vancouver and the South Coast, unsettled conditions today with sun breaks along with a chance of showers and possibly even some lightning. Today's high near 7. Mainly cloudy tonight and tomorrow.
I'm Tom Power. You're listening to Q. It's kind of a clash of titans of Canadian culture. Margaret Atwood is one of the world's most noted writers, a Canadian national treasure. She's won every book award you can think of, 2 Booker Prizes, the Governor General's Award, prose, poetry, graphic novels. I mean, her book, The Handmaid's Tale, got turned into a massive, life-changing TV series. Misha Berger-Gossman-Lee is an award-winning Canadian powerhouse soprano, performed with some of the greatest orchestras all over the world, performed with the opening ceremony for the Olympics. It's just been announced that Misha is going to be honored with the Governor General's Performing Arts Award later this year, too. So now these 2 giants of Canadian art have collided on a new album. It sounds like this. also reads on the record, which is really lovely. Like, on the record, you get to hear Margaret Atwood read a poem, and then Misha sings that poem. I'm afraid to say this, but like I find sometimes when I hear like adaptations of poems in music, I don't really hear the lyrics that well. I'm trying to make them out. So it's kind of nice to hear one and then hear the other. Anyway, Misha is also the executive producer of this project. Misha Berger-Gossman Lee came by our Q studio, and I began by asking her how she knew Margaret Atwood in the first place. Are you guys friends? Do you guys know each other?
Listen, I am going to name drop Margaret Atwood from now until I die.
Okay.
Because officially we have made an album together. She would be like, Misha, it's your project. So she was the best. Meanwhile, I'm like, Margaret, you need to understand that I have been stalking you, Giller style, for like a decade. Trying, like, when I read Edible Woman when I was in like my 12th grade, I was like, someday this woman is gonna give me a key to her house and we're gonna be like best friends ever. She didn't know any of this, and now she is like in Mexico. She's unlikely to hear this, so I'm just gonna let it all hang out.
Okay.
Because I have loved her with the heat of 1,000 suns.
How did you end up making the connection? How did you end up saying hello?
Again, Gillian and low-key